Hi guys, and welcome back here to the Dev Realm. And today we're gonna be carrying on our our TCG series. And what we're gonna be doing here today is that we're gonna finally try to create our enemy. So let's get started. First thing, I'm gonna close everything, and I'm gonna go back here to the TCG game, and I wanna scope out how this is going to work. So normally, when you start the game, let's just use paint to illustrate this because I need to also focus on how we're going to work. So we have here what we call the game mode. So the game mode basically runs on the server. So this thing here, it's running on the server. Okay. Now what happens is that when I join myself, I am the client. So I'm talking to this guy and say, okay, I'm here. Can you please actually do something? All right. So now what happened is that when you join, we also need to put other players and keep track of them in the server. So that's what we're going to be doing here today. But first of all, we need to create our AI. So let's just focus here on AI because, of course, I would like to play against myself. But let's try also to create the AI to indicate that this may be a single game. So now what we're doing is that we are going to open up the GM. And in here, we're going to create a new variable. And this variable is going to be called is single player. All right. So we're going to compile that and save. So I think we have something called is joining. Join session. So joins a remote session. Like, do we have an event? I know that there is an event post login notifications that the player has successfully logged in and has been given a player controller. I think we want this. That's the one we're looking for. This gives us the player controller. So what happened here, that when you compile and you press play, we got the player there. So what happened with this is that every time a player joins the game, we tells the player controller has joined. Nice, this is perfect. So now what happened is that on our player controller, we need to basically, well, I guess, so if the player only joins once, what we can actually do here is that we can cast this to the TCG player controller. Oh, sorry, not the interface. Cast. I mean, we do have an interface, you know. So let's just use here the BPI, the controller. What happened here is that we're gonna. So basically, what I did, actually, I did this on off, and I think you guys probably weren't aware. So what happened is that on the TCG game mode folder. Okay, pay attention. I right click and I'm gonna go back here to blueprints, and I'm gonna create here a blueprint interface. Okay, this one's right, blueprint interface. And now you're gonna have an empty file which you're gonna rename to BP -TCG controller, because this belongs to the player controller. So open up that. Now what happened is I'm gonna create a new function. And this is going to be called i-return return component. Actually, TCG component. Now, what is that thing that we need to return? Is the output, and this is going to be the component, and this is going to be called a BPC TCG component object reference. Now, all you got to do, open up your player controller. Now we have to implement the interface, which I already did, but I'm going to show you how to do it anyway. So you're going to have your controller. You're going to go to class settings. And in the details here, you're going to have something called interface, right? Actually, I haven't. So here you're going to press add, and you're going to search for BPI. BPI dash or TCG. Why is not finding my interface? Oh, sorry, it's already here. I didn't realize. So I'm just gonna click it out. Yes, and I'm going to search for BPI TCG controller. So I'm going to compile and save. BPI TCG controller has, well, I'm not sure why this is conflicting because I already have the function. So I'm just going to delete that. Go back. BPI TCG controller. Nice. Now the first thing you're going to notice, the next thing is that here in the interfaces, if you double click, you have this. So now it's asking for the component, you're going to plug it right there, and that's everything you got to do. Now, back to the game interface here. What happens is that every time you have someone joining the game, it tells you the controller and who they are and what they are, right? So in this case here, we need to basically get, we're going to basically call the BPI return TCG component. And in here, I want to get that player component. Because remember, the component is the one that talks with the player and handles most of the logic. So getting the controller will be quite useless for us. So we're just getting here our player. Unless we need a controller, but I think we'll be fine just with a widget. Now, what happened here, guys, is that we need to create here two variables. So the first one that we are going to create here is that we're going to create a promote to a new variable. And we are going to create here is that player 1. And then we're going to duplicate and call player number 2. So the player 1 and the player number 2, player number 2 may be, or player 1 may be an enemy or AI. We're not sure yet how this is going to work. Okay. But what we're going to do here is that we're going to get, and we're going to get this, and we're going to basically say, is this valid? This is valid, which means that we are setting up the, sorry, if it's not valid, which means, sorry, I think we have to do a better logic here. So empty, do we have is valid? I think we're going to have to use the other node, and we're going to have to basically create a branch here. So what happened is that if it's valid, and I'm going to do the negation called not, or just different, not boolean, that's the one I want. So if is not valid means it's going to fall under this hello there. Okay. Now what happens is that if this happens, then I want to set this to the player number 1. Now, if the player number 1 is already taken, then what happened is that I want to set this to the player number 2, right? Of course, ideally, you would like to check if player number 2 is checked, and then, you know, just to cause issues. But the way it is, it looks quite good. Now, what happened, what I would like to do here is that I just want to basically do a print, and I'm just going to basically get the player number 1, and I'm going to also get the player number 2. And the player number 2 here, it's going to be a funny color, and this one here as well is going to be funny color, like green or something, just so it's different. So I'm going to press play. Now I have that. So now what happened is that I want to play here as a client. So let's see. So you play here as a client. So the server says that. You could see that the other one is empty. But now if I play here with 2 people, both green and red should be filled. You see? They're both filled, which means that one player joins, and that player is the player 1, and then the other one player joins, and then that player is the player 2, and so on and so forth. So that's fine. It means that this thing is working. Now, okay, so we are getting now who is the player 1 and player 2 for when people log in our game. So get the players. Now, we have to basically try to figure out now. So this is just, get the dice, generate the dice amount on the server. Remember that we did this I'm just gonna comment, because I feel like if I don't comment this, I don't know what's going on. Now we have to do one quick thing here. Of course, I'm gonna go back to play as standalone, and on the begin play, begin or event begin play, if this here is a single player, that means that we have to do certain actions in the game. Okay, so by the way, I didn't see that. Why is that set up? Okay, true. So it's gonna mark this as true. Press play. Hello. All right. So what we're gonna do here, guys, is that we have now to create an AI for us, because playing against another user will be easier, because then the user controls his screen, you control your screen, and then everything happens. But we need to be able also to play by ourselves. I want my game to be able to, to people to be able to enjoy. I don't want this to be able just to be played online all the time. Okay, so what we're gonna do is that on the blueprints, I'm just gonna create a new folder called card, and I'm gonna move all those cards right here. And I'm gonna create a new folder, and a new actor, or actually a new poem, and this is gonna be called BP AI. Just go AI. This AI also will have a controller, so we're gonna search here for a controller, and this is gonna be an AI controller, and we're gonna select, and this is gonna be called BP AI controller. Now, if I am not mistaken, character pawn includes the ability to walk around. Pawn that can be possessed. Okay. Now, what happened is that here on the AI, I would like to search for the controller, so I can search here. See AI controller. I'm just gonna select my own, and actually, I'm gonna call this AI controller TCG. All right. Now the TCG AI controller, all we need here is just to basically add that BPC component, right? We're going to compile and save. Now the controller also needs to be implemented with the interface that we just created. So just going to search for BPI. The reason why is because I want both the players and AI and everyone to be treated the same. I don't want to have differences. I want to be like, if I'm applying damage, I'm applying to a player, which can be AI. I'm not sure. And also, we don't need to care, right? I mean, we may have to do some distinctions in the future, but I want, as much as I'm concerned, to be able to be treated as the same. So now what happened here is that, for example, +2, that's fine. I thought I spotted the issue. So now on the game controller, all we have to do here realistically is that we have to basically spawn actor from class, and we have to spawn the player, the pawn, the AI, right? Or the BP-AI. We spawn this person from here, and we're gonna make a transform. Make transform. Also, I don't care where we spawn this. It doesn't matter. Now, what happened is that once this is spawned, we can get the controller. And what we can actually do here is that we can actually do a print. And let's see if this is working. Please tell me we have AI. It didn't work. Let's just do a print here. Let's do that. Delay. Okay. Are we playing standalone? Yes, we're playing standalone. Let me double check. Is this actor? So if I do a print here, is this guy spawned? Let's see. Nope. Let's see here if I compile and save. So it is spawning that, which is good. Now get controller. I think what we gotta do here, guys, I think we gotta need to add a delay, you know? Maybe 2 seconds delay. I'm not sure, because I think it takes some time. basically, well, it's not working, but can we process, add a process, move sequence? No. Process, get possessable. Why is that? So getting the controller. Did I assign this property? So on the AI, get AI controller class, auto possess, spawned. I see. Yes. Okay. I think we found the issue there. We just had to do, now if we do a print and I get the controller, let's see. Do we have the AI? Yes, we do have the AI. But I still, guys, are going to add just a delay of like maybe half a second, just because I don't want, you know, I just want this to be easy to like to just add it here and it works. Anyway, we got that here, which is fine, which means that every time we got a reference to that. Now what happened is that from the controller, I want to call the I return component message. And from here, I can do a print and I can see what is the component like. There we go. We got a component reference. And this is going to be set as a player number 2. All right. That is really good. Pretty good. Pretty good. Now, what happened is that we have to find a way now to access that information and basically update our widgets, you know, get the player name and all that jazz that we already know. So now I think we don't need anything else from this. So basically here we spawn the AI, right? Spawn the AI. And now all we're gonna do is that we need to open up the WBP main widget. And actually, no, sorry. What we have to do here is that, for example, we want to make sure that those things get, that we read this information, right? We update the information, we get the player data and all that stuff, right? So what I would like to do here is that I want to pass to my widget the reference of this information that I have on my player. So for example, now I'm going to open up here the component, and now on the component here, I have, if I'm not mistaken, the upload update. How do we call? We have the reload, right? Reload or something. API reload widget. So it goes back and then it calls here on the client. Nice. So what happened here? We need to add a couple of more layers to this. And the other layer that we have to add it here, it's this version. So we're going to call API reload widget client. Now this is going to be on the client, which is fine. Now what happens is run on the client. Now we're going to create a custom version, which is going to be the same but runs on the server. And then the server one is going to be multicast and multicast runs on the server. And then we're going to have the final version. It's going to be custom. It's going to be run on a multicast. All right. It's going to be set up to multicast and must be reliable, and that's it. All right. So first of all, what we're going to do here is that, of course, we call this API reload widget from here. That calls right here, and also is going to call right there. That's fine. That it's really easy to do, and we don't have to do much. Now we can see if this is working, because when we add it here, I don't know, everything still works the same. It's just that we're passing through different places. Okay. Now we have a difference. So we also now need to keep track of the enemy. Like we do need that enemy information. So I may have a feeling that we need to be able to throw some kind of, you know, we need to get the information somehow. And what I would like to do here is that on the the TCG game, okay, I'm going to create a function. And this function is going to be called fn get enemy. All right. Now, what I'm going to do here is that I am going to get the player, and this is going to be equal, and I'm basically going to pass here the enemy, right? So I always want to return the enemy, which means that I can't return myself. Now, I do know what's myself because I can pass here. I can pass like, you know, I can pass, let's say, player. Who is the player who is doing this request? And the player that's doing this request at this point is myself. So if they are the same, that means that we return the player, return the return, no. It means that we need to return the player number 2, okay? Now, what happens if you are the same? Then we just need to return ourself, right? Player number 1. Because it may happen that, you know, if I'm the player number 2, like I'm just gonna basically add self, right? Or maybe self. Yeah, self is, I think self is about self player is the best name. Yeah, that's fine. Now what happened is that we got this. So now we're just gonna call enemy, right? Sorry, enemy. Now one thing, guys, this may be distracting, but this function, it may be misleading. So give the self reference of the player to find the enemy, right? Enemy. Now, it may be a way to exploit this. I'm not entirely sure, but this should work. So now what happens is that if I'm passing myself and I'm checking, is myself equals to the player number 1? Yes. So then you return player 2 because that's your enemy. Otherwise, you return player number 1. And that's it. Simple as it gets. Now what happened is that here, before we call this data, we basically get our game mode, and we're going to call that fn get enemy. Now the get enemy, it's going to be the enemy. There we go. So of course that you have to pass yourself, right? So you have to pass yourself as a reference. And now basically let's check if we get the enemy or not. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make this color, let's say purple for the enemy. And then for myself, I am going to make it like just going to get self. I'm just going to make it green again. Now I probably want to make display this to 5 for 5 seconds because I want to be able to debug this a little bit more. Let's press play. Now what happened? Okay, we are adding that. Look at that. So what happened is that if I drop that, you see that they are different. They are very different on each other. So now what happened is that we have the ability now to apply the damage to the enemy. Now one thing here, what is this complaining? Game mode. Trying to read property game mode, get enemy UI stuff. Well, it's saying that the game mode doesn't exist. It's possible because the game mode is not being set up yet. So what we gotta do here is that we probably gotta make sure that we only do the request if it is valid. Right, so we only carry on with this request if we have a valid thing. Nice. Now we have the game mode. Now we can pass here the enemy here, right? So this is going to be called, let's say, the enemy. And this is going to be BPC component, right? Now what happened is that we plug this here and we plug this there. And now we can basically do some things here on the client. Remember, We're running things on a multicast, but we're checking if the widget is valid. Now on the reload widget, there I can create a new variable called enemy, or a new input, right? And this is going to be called BPC, the card component. And now I just want to make sure that we have access to the player. So you can maybe break that, or you can just get the name of it, right? Now if I press play, do we have the information? Let's check. So if I drag and drop, do the damage to the player, do the damage to the player. Like, it is actually doing that. Why is it not? It's not actually passing that data through. You see, the problem is that, well, I think the problem is that we're trying to access certain types of information that we don't have access to. So now let's see what's going on. So, oh yeah, sorry. Of course, guys. I didn't plug the value, right? Of course, it's not going to pass the information because we haven't plugged the value. But now we have the reference to the enemy, right? So now what we're going to do here, just to be able to separate both versions on the BPAI controller, what we are going to actually do here is we're going to get this, and we're going to basically, I think first of all, we need to replicate this, make sure it's replicated, right? And also we want to, I think everything is replicated. Yeah, that's good. So we're going to basically get the player info, right? Now we're going to basically break this, and I want to set the player name. Sorry, we're going to just set member. And what I would like to do here is that I just want to set this to be the player name, and I just want to call this AI man. There you go. So it's going to be called AI man. Now on the component itself, when we reload it, let's see if we can actually access that. So if I break that, it's right, get the player. No. That's right. Get player info, and break this stuff. Do we have the name of the AI? Let's see. AI man, like that. Which means that we have the access to the AI. Now, would this work on the server? Let's see. AI man, that looks quite good actually. If I say trill, that looks quite cool. Yeah. Now, if I press play here on the client, play as a client, and press play. Now, what happens is that we have a problem. So when we run this as a client, that's not working exactly how it should be. So you say the access denied print string, because it's saying that this is empty. Now I would like to see why. So let's see if we can figure out what's going on. So do we first have, because this is running on the server, so this is going to be running on the server. We're just going to do a print, and I mean, it's definitely passing the information for us. Hello. Okay, so it's passing hello. That's fine. Server is passing that. Okay. Now we are definitely passing that data to this guy. So this information is coming here. So we get in the enemy. We are returning here that data. Let me double check if this here is also actually getting the information of the component. So we get that on here, but why is this running? So this runs on the client, that runs on the server. Why is the print running? So that runs on the server. Okay, that only runs on the server. Now if I go back here and paste, I'm just gonna do a print here, because I think what we have is a problem. It runs on the server. See, the server always knows, but the client doesn't get a reference, unfortunately. So the client one doesn't understand what we are trying to add. Um, but why? Multicast. What happens if this is not reliable? Does it still have the same outcome? Still has the same outcome. Okay. Let's leave it like here for now. Okay. What happened? Okay, let's just plug those two and see what happened. Does that work? No, the client still complains about that. Okay, we can try to do a plan B here. You can try to do a plan B. So what happened is we can try to do this in a different way. I think that would even be maybe a better approach. So instead of passing the enemy here, okay, we don't pass the enemy there anymore, but we do call this function called fn get enemy, right? So what happened, instead of calling a function, I'm going to go back here and I'm going to create here a custom event, and I am going to call this API find enemy. All right, now the enemy, we are going to pass here that, we're going to plug self. Now we have the enemy. Now this probably is going to work. Now the next thing I would like to do here is that instead of doing this, we're going to call the API find enemy. And now the enemy is going to be self, which is the self of the player. Now I have a problem. Problem that we have here is that we need to basically tell this thing here to, we need to pass the enemy right there. So what happens is that we're going to promote this to a variable, and we're going to call this enemy. Yeah, that makes sense. I like this name. I'm going to make sure that's public and is replicated, because I do need that value to be, let's say, replicated. Okay. Now, what happened here is that we need a way of setting that thing back. Okay. So we need to be able to set the enemy back. So what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to create here a custom event called API set enemy. And remember, guys, I'm only doing all these unnecessary things here because I would like this to be an online game at some point, and we kind of need this to be like working properly, right? So we need to be able to set this properly. So now what happened is that, okay, we have the enemy that runs on the client. So on the game mode, all we're going to do is just, we're going to call the API set. This is the object reference. So what's this? No, this is the BPC component. It's going to compile and save. And this, instead of being an object reference, this is going to be also the BPC component. Make sure it's the right approach. So now we get that. Yeah, okay. Now we're going to call it. Sorry. What we're going to do here is going to call the API set enemy. And here we are passing the enemy on the client, right? Now let's see. So we get that. Client one. So as I was probably thinking is that maybe client is not the best option. So this maybe need to run on the server. Now, if we run this on the server, let's see what's going to happen. Now we get the information. Great. Now we need to transform this into a client. So from the server, let's see if we can actually call the client. So we're going to call this, which is going to be dash server. Okay, just to make sure aware. And here we're just going to call the client. Okay, client. Now we're going to copy that. We're going to call this value. We plug it here, and now we can actually just do a print, and we get this value right here. Okay, so this is going to be, there we go. So now we have the server, and well, I'm not sure why. Oh, sorry, it needs to run on the client. I'm not sure why I was doing that. It's because I forgot to change that value, unfortunately. Let's see. Does that work? Does that work? Please work. Still does not work. But what if I run this on a multicast, right? Let's see if I try to do that as a multicast. So I think the server gonna have the value, but not the client. So I think that we're gonna have a problem. So what we're gonna have to do here, I'm gonna have to change my approach because this is not working properly. So we're gonna call this the enemy info, and what we need to get here is get the player info. This is called st player info. So let's just change to st player info, right? And now here, st player info. Plug this down, and we're gonna print it here, and we just basically gonna break and get maybe the name of the player. So let's compile and save that, and let's see what's gonna happen. So where is that? Oh, no, I was complaining about that. So let's see. There we go. Okay. So what I'm thinking here is that we have some kind of an issue with passing the component itself. So instead of, like, my idea was to pass the whole component and that's it. I don't have to deal with anything anymore. But unfortunately, that's not possible. Due to some probably constraints or some issues that I'm not aware. So what I'm going to do here, guys, is that I'm going to pause this video right now because it got very long, way longer. And then in the next one, we carry on with this data. Once again, thank you very much for watching, and I see you guys in the next one.